I'm so pleased that you've taken time from your busy schedule to come here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
According to my notes, which are not extensive, that you grew up in Bombay, India. You're now a Twin Cities resident. You're a cookbook author, culinary teacher, a chef, and also a multi-award winner, including Julia Childs and James Beard's Award, which is very impressive.
Thank you.
First question, we're going to have some great things to try out in terms of food. You know, we've taken up Indian cooking or going to Indian restaurants the last few years, and we think it's great. But a lot of my friends say that, well, it's so spicy. It's a little too much for us. What's the truth on that?
I think the term spicy oftentimes, brings out the perception that it's hot. But, to us, spicy really means flavorful. 99% of the spices we use are flavor producing, and I brought you some spices to look at. They're primarily designed to excite your palate, and I think as we get older, and I'm not far behind being a senior myself. I think we really look for flavors to sort of excite our foods that we think of as being mundane and boring. And so my goal really is to show you what you can do to incorporate some simple techniques in your everyday cooking. One
of your books that you published is a Betty Crocker, was picked up by Betty Crocker, which is called Betty Crocker Indian Home Cooking. And the show, in the foreword, it says, once you become familiar with the basic elements of the cuisine, the herbs, spices, and legumes, simply using them in the creative ways that I will show you will immerse you in the foods and tastes of the Indian kitchen. So what you're going to do, you're going to show us how you can take some Indian spices, simple Indian spices, and take some rather mundane foods and make them very exciting. So I'm anxious to share that.
Absolutely. When we look at our world of spices, a lot of the spices these days are very commonly available in your everyday grocery store. Things like cumin, coriander, turmeric, cayenne, cardamom, which is also very traditional in the Norwegian Scandinavian bakings.
It is.
And so it's incorporating some of those into foods that you, for instance, when you wake up in the morning, oftentimes, people reach for their the eggs in the refrigerator, and they want to do something besides, just making it scrambled. And
I get bored with that.
You get bored with it, but I'm going to excite you with that.
Oh, good. I need excitement.
I'm actually, what I did was I took
well, these spices here. These are some of the spices.
These are some of the spices that we're actually I have used, and if you think about it, here is turmeric. Which is, incidentally, is considered to be...
that's the yellow stuff.
That's the yellow stuff, which also you find used a lot in commercial curry powders. This is ground red pepper. You've got cloves, you've got cardamom pods. These are the seeds removed from the pod. Black mustard seed and cumin seed.
Well, now, does this come in a package like this that I can get all the, or how do you get these?
You could actually find them very commonly in grocery stores. You buy them in small amounts. You could go to anything from an Asian grocery store to even your regular grocery store. You'll be able to find these and buy them in small quantities. This is what I'm holding is a spice box, which is very common to Indian kitchens.
And these are the most common everyday Indian.
This is what I thought will look very pretty today. But it's also something that we use a fair amount in our cooking. In our cuisine. And so when we look at the eggs that we've...
now this is the egg right here.
This is the eggs, and all I've done is I have flavored a little bit, in a little bit of oil, I've actually stir-fried some onions and bell peppers.
And that's not too complicated.
It's not too complicated, absolutely not. And to get my scrambled eggs, once you beat your eggs, add a little bit of cream to that to sort of give it more fluffiness. And then pour that in, and I added a pinch of ground cumin to that, and a hint of chilies to sort of prick it up. And
some. Am I able to sample this?
You absolutely can, and I've actually put them in a puff pastry.
In a puff pastry.
Puff pastry shell. So
but I can just use them, put them on the.
You can put them on toast, which is what we actually do.
Or just scramble them up and put them on the plate.
On your plate, and it's designed to perk up something very simple, and all I've got.
This is terrific.
Thank you.
This is not like no eggs I've ever had.
This is the kind of eggs you'll find in my home kitchen.
Perhaps you'll invite me.
Well, anytime. And that's very simple to do. I mean, you're talking, 5 minutes of your time in the mornings, and spices that are, again, extremely commonly available.
What is it? there's one particular taste which what is that? What is
I've
it?
got a hint of cumin in it. Cumin is a spice that is very common. You know, we believe in extracting 8 flavors from any spice, and so depending on the way we use it. And so all we've done is taken a little bit of ground cumin and flavored the bell
Is all
peppers.
this in your books here?
This is actually in my Betty Crocker's Indian Home Cooking.
And you can still get that at Amazon.com, right?
Absolutely, it's available
It's
wherever.
called Betty Crocker's Indian Home Cooking.
Sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. It's
and it's the title, of course, the author is Raghavan Iyer.
Yep. And the second book, which is actually, I'm going to show you another dish that I did. It is a variation of a recipe in the Turmeric Trail, which was a James Beard finalist for Best International Cookbook. There's a recipe in there I did with ground lamb, but I think, you know, people sometimes may not be quite familiar with ground lamb. They rather reach for ground beef, which is what I've used. And all I've done is I have actually flavored the ground beef with a little bit of cardamom and black pepper and cloves and cinnamon. Again, very common spices with a little bit of garlic. And then I've actually charbroiled the burgers.
Well, I better try those now too. Tell me about the burgers, because then I'll sample those.
It is something that you know.
Now, what's in the burgers is going to make it unique?
The spices that I alluded to: the cloves, the cinnamon, the cardamom, and it's got some onions and garlic with a hint of fresh mint.
No.
And charbroiled
And there's some onions there, right?
And it got some red onions, which again I think is a little bit more colorful. You eat with all your senses, and so you've got. If you don't mind me using my hands, Roland.
No, I forgive you. Incidentally, you have a new book coming out too.
I do.
What
I
is
have a
it
book
called?
coming out in the fall of this year. It's a book on 700 Indian curries. And
700 Indian curries.
which is, now this is the time I would love for you to eat so that I can take over your show. It is, it actually
What's
talks...
the dominant taste here that I'm tasting?
You're actually tasting a combination. You're tasting cloves, cinnamon, cardamom, peppercorns, bay leaves, cinnamon, which I talked about, garlic, and onions.
And of course, you have a website.
I do have a website, RaghavanIyer.com.
So you can find out where your classes are and so on.
Absolutely. I teach all over the country, and
This is so good.
Oh, thank you.
This is just terrific. All right. I want to thank you very much, because this has been a delight. It's sort of a revelation of what can be done without a lot of effort.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks for having me out.
Thank you very much, Raghavan. We've been talking to Raghavan Iyer, the very well-noted Indian cook